Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Larry Avery, the managing partner at Big Easy Foods. Founded in Lake Charles, Louisiana, Big Easy Foods provides authentic Louisiana flavor through stuffed meats, seafood, and other traditional dishes, aiming to bring hearty Southern meals to homes everywhere. Larry also serves on the board of directors for the Louisiana Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board and co-founded Crying Eagle Brewing Company, highlighting his commitment to promoting local tastes and traditions. With years of experience in the food industry, Larry has helped Big Easy Foods grow its product line while staying true to its mission of delivering convenient and delicious meals. For nearly 3 decades, he has guided his company's expansion into online distribution of gourmet and frozen products. His leadership reflects a passion for celebrating the cuisine and culture of Louisiana, making him a true champion of Southern hospitality. Today, we'll hear about how Larry and his team have built a successful brand and how he's navigated challenges in a very competitive market. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. One recent client was able to add over $900 per employee per year in extra cash flow by implementing one of our innovative programs. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefitsagency.com. All right, back to our guest today, CEO, co-founder of Big Easy Foods, Larry Avery. I appreciate you making the time to share your story today.
Well, thank you. Glad to.
Okay, so Larry, maybe take us back a ways. Where did the idea to start Big Easy Foods first come from?
Well, we have to go back a little further than that. My wife and I started a company called Aquatech Engineering Supply that grew out of our garage to 8 offices around the country. Okay, and then in 1995, we sold it to a public company in Chicago. I stayed on a couple of years, and then that's the contract. So my contract was up. My wife and I moved back to this Lake Charles area, and we began.
Sorry, Larry, before we move on from that, say a little bit more about what that company did.
The Aquatech Engineering?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So we did flow through filtrations, and we cleaned up. Our biggest claim to fame, we were the biggest in the country cleaning up UST, underground storage tanks. That's where the service stations that had been in business for 60 years, tanks began to leak, contaminating the groundwater underneath their fields. So we would put up our equipment, remediate the ground, service the equipment, and then bring the ground back to clean and where they could use it further. So we cleaned up probably 1,000 sites, But the other thing is we also built equipment for people like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo and Coors and pharmaceutical companies and all that. So it just kind of grew and grew. And then, I guess in about 1994, 3 or 4, something like that, we were approached by Shell Oil Company to do some help them with their offshore division. So but prior to those years, they were allowed to go in, shut a well in, acidize the formation, send it acid down, then bring it up and put it overboard. Fish can detect pH change. What they can't detect is the hydrocarbons. So the government said, okay, you can throw the acid overboard, but you got to get all the hydrocarbons out of it. Well, that was very hard for anybody to do. And they asked me, and of course, being a young entrepreneur, we said, well, I'll tell you what, send us a sample. We'll run it through our labs. And they called back 2 days later and said, we don't have any more time. What's the answer? And I said, the answer is, I don't know. But what I'll do is I'll send a crew out there with our equipment. If we clean it up, you pay me this. And if we don't, you pay me this, much lesser. And they said, come on. Well, it worked. So we patented it. And I figured that these big companies would have a workaround within 18, 24 months. So that's not the case. It's still probably over close to $500 million worth of the sales for the company that I sold to now. So,
and were you the one who came up with the actual science, the tech behind it that was able to do this?
Well, I suppose that would be right to say, but of course we all have teams. I don't do anything by myself. Okay, we contemplate and we do things. So we use that same technology to clean up some of the groundwaters that were contaminated with heavy hydrocarbons and things like that. So we did it on land. Now we're doing it offshore, and it was very lucrative business. But also at that point, and that they were doing a tremendous amount of roll-ups in the environmental space. And at that point, I had hired somebody just to handle the offers. You get a lot of offers for your company, and so we just moved forward growing the business and let somebody else do it. He brought me an offer.
What was kind of the breakthrough in that tech? Is it something you can talk about? What was it that you were able to figure out that others weren't?
Well, we used the media that we had secured through the company that actually ended up buying us. That was their media. It's a clay-based media that it's used in a lot of things, but we used it with anthracite, coal, and it just worked. So anyway, the science behind it, you're probably going to have to ask somebody else. But
all right, fair enough.
It worked. That's all that mattered.
Okay, so you built this company up. You had this patent technology. Exit to Shell is the one who ultimately bought it?
No, it was Amcol, who's now been bought out by somebody else. They were less than $1 billion company, and they were growing to $1 billion, and so we became part of it. Eventually, I had to move to Chicago for 2 years, run the company. They had bought 2 other companies they put under me, and we grew it until my contract was up, and I just said it was time for us to go back south. I had built a self-storage, and that was going to be my retirement. So I was 42 years old. Had sold my company, so we had some money, and I put me a little tiny office in my self-storage company we'd opened up here in the Lake Charles area, and started playing golf and doing other things. Well, after about 3 months, plus I'm at the country club where everybody at that point was 70 years old, and there I was 40, had nothing in common with them. So I decided I was going to build a self-storage company. And that's where my partner comes in, Mark Abraham. So Mark and I got together and decided to build 10 self-storage. He had a small sausage and boudin company in a neighboring town that he was looking for somebody to come in and help him. With that, it was very small, less than $1 million a year in sales. Wasn't too profitable. So anyway, I spent some time in his business at his request, and found out he needed some tuning up, and he asked if I would be part of it. And after about 3 or 4 months of that, I broke down and said, sure, I'll be a part of it, but I don't want no part of what you got going on. I will build a nice new state-of-the-art facility, buy a few companies, put them together, and flip it in about 6 years. That was the plan. And 25 years later, we're still buying companies and putting them together. So anyway,
What
that's
was
the
it
way
that
I
you
did the
saw
environment.
in sort of his seedling of an idea that,
Yeah.
it was there, it was running
Yeah.
along, not making a lot of money? What did you see that you thought, okay, let this be my next thing?
Wow, that's well, his plant manager was stealing from me. His bookkeeper was stealing from me. He had 14 employees doing the work of 6. And so I told him that, and he goes, well, you got to come and take care of this. I said, I want no part of that. And like I just said, it took 3 months to convince me. And so we did. We got together and started. At that point, it was called French Market Foods. And then we bought a few companies, seasoning company, stuffed chicken company, and things like that. And then and then we focused on a Turducken. You familiar with the Turducken, John Madden, and all those guys?
Go ahead and tell for the audience.
Well, it's a turkey that we debone. We leave the legs and the wings out there for shape, but we stuff it with a boneless duck, boneless chicken, and various dressings. It became very popular. We had a good write up in the Wall Street Journal and just tons of other newspapers and things. So we became the biggest in the turducken business. So
Why were you guys the biggest? Were you the first?
Well, we bought our company from Paul. One of our companies from Paul Prudhomme, and he's the one kind of founded Turducken, and he had a good following. The only thing about Chef Paul, he didn't want anything frozen. Okay, he developed this product, and it was a great product, good for big events and things like that. But the real market for that product is in the frozen, where you could put it in grocery stores around the country, and we did. We put it in grocery stores around the country, and did bought the biggest turducken internet company, Turducken.com. So we had a good presence in the e-commerce business, and that it became it's very labor intensive, and it started dwelling off. John Madden passed away. He brought every Thanksgiving he had it at that football game. So it was, but then after he passed, it was a smaller, and by that time we're doing other stuff. So we didn't mind stepping aside, moving the turduckens to the side.
So, Larry, as we're hearing about some of your experiences here, I'm trying to sort of weave the common thread because you're sort of this well wastewater cleanup and patented tech there, and then you obviously very successful. You built that up and exited. And then, you get into the food business, which you previously hadn't had a background in, but, you're very quickly acquiring companies, and sounds like at least you planned on, I don't know if you move forward with the self-storage companies. And so if I want to try to, put Larry Avery in a box, are you a great leader? Are you a great salesman? Great at spotting opportunities? Help us understand.
Well, to me, I think businesses, believe it or not, are about 90% transferable. So what you learn in this business, you transfer in the other. What does that mean? That means give a good quality product, give good customer service, customer relationships, and surround yourself with great people. Now, the other 10%, there's a whole lot of difference between cleaning up wastewater plants to building a food company. Those are things you got to learn. But again, it's all about surrounding yourself with just fantastic people and keeping them. You spend a lot of time investing in new people, I believe, and not enough time with keeping the good people you have. So we've done that. So my chief operating officer, he's been with me out of 25 years. He's been here 24 years. So he started once he got his MBA and came in, and he was a good friend of my son. I knew him very well, and he got his MBA, wanted to come work. I said, tell you what I got. I got an inside sales job that pays $24,000 a year. This is 24 years ago, mind you, okay? And he goes, I can't take that. I'm making 40 selling insurance. I said, well, if it's all about money, then you probably need to stay over there. But if you want to come help build something, and we'll all succeed together. And I said, go home and think about it. Talk to your wife. And he did. I think 2 days later, he signed up, and he's been here ever since. But that's just one. I've got the production manager. He's been here 20-something years. The logistics lady, she's been through everything, but now she's logistics 20-something years. So we got a lot of people that's been here from 15 to 20 years, and this we don't really train a lot of people because people don't leave.
And so what's the secret to keeping them?
I always had our motto here is if we're going to make money and have fun. Okay, it has to be in that order, but and if we could win that, it would probably going to sell because I believe you should have a good time. This is a serious business, and we take it very serious. But again, we like to laugh a little bit. I bring my little puppy to work and runs around and plays with people, and an hour later it gets taken off. But that's just one of the things we do. But we do.
I mean, say more about the have fun part of it, right? I mean, every business, you've got to make money. You're not running a charity. That's table stakes to keep the doors open. But what's it look like sort of there behind the scenes? How are you guys having a good time?
My job, to me, now remember, I've got great people in place. So my job is to be the biggest cheerleader, encourage them, be their listener, being the guy that does the providing the resources they need, believe in them, support ideas they come to you with. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them that come to you with some really incredible ideas, and we just go together and we do work on it, make it a success. So, but people like that. They like to be able to walk in at any time in my office and talk to me. So, and I'll walk in their office and talk to them. And the other plants we have around country, we show up and have a good time, and I'll feed everybody, and we've had a Christmas bonus for 25 years, and even the years we lost money, we gave bonuses out because a lot of times it wasn't their fault that we didn't make any money. It wasn't my fault either, just circumstances takes you.
Sometimes things out of your control. Yeah,
a lot of time.
What were the COVID years like for you guys? Up, down, big struggle? You're in a closed environment.
Well, we own the self-storage company, and the brewery took it on the chin. Food company, our business went through the roof. We couldn't keep up. Okay, prices went up. Everything. It was just. We made some good friends and we made some enemies in our business because these grocery stores were selling more. They couldn't keep on the shelves because people couldn't go to the restaurants. And so we sold a lot of product. And a lot of times we wasn't able to keep up with the orders, and that's where you get people upset. So, but all in all, it was a good growing experience for us. And we've made up to all those people that got upset.
So the people who are upset, they're just upset because you guys couldn't keep up with the demand. You couldn't supply enough product to them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Tell us more about the products. You've acquired multiple companies along the way. What are you guys producing now? What are your capabilities?
Well, we do. So we're the biggest in the domestic shrimp business. Wild domestic shrimp out of of the Gulf into grocery stores. Okay, there's two dimensions of food, and one's food service, which is restaurants and things like schools and prisons. That we do very, very little business there. We focused years ago on grocery stores, and so we're mostly grocery driven company. So we offer the shrimp all different ways, but P&D, peeled and deveined, cooked, all natural, things like that. So that's shrimp. And then catfish, we do domestic catfish in the retail space, and we're the biggest guys in that business too. So, and we're in a lot of the major chains, okay, a lot of them, and it's just grown. And then the other third is the Louisiana cuisines. So that's like boneless stuffed chickens. It's like sausage, boudin. We do entrees, which are heat and eat entree, the small single serve gumbos, etouffees, creoles, all the things, and we sell it all over. And then we make these little bacon poppers, which are jalapenos stuffed with either Creole sausage, cream cheese, or anything like that. And then we put the bacon wrap, and we make about 50,000 of those a day and sell them out. So, when the price of bacon goes up, it's a big deal. Or in the case we're going with now is jalapenos. We buy our jalapenos from a region in Mexico where they grow them to the BTU specs that we like. Okay, which means not too hot. We want a good jalapeno flavor, but we don't want everybody burning up with them. So there's a section in Mexico, we buy everything they grow. And every year they grow more and more because we buy more. So we've got a good name in that business, and we sell a lot of those.
And so they've got a specific strain of these peppers that they grow, and they know that the BTU rating is going to come out sort of in this range because of the soil conditions and what that strain is like. And that's perfect for your client base. Yeah.
Yeah. And we want to keep that relationship growing. So if they put a tariff on Mexico, that'll affect us. We figured that's something that, of course, we can work around anything. So
what would be the plan if those tariffs come through? I mean, you just have to increase your prices.
If it was a 25% tariff, it would be around 2 cents per popper. Okay, so 50,000 poppers a day is $1,000 a day cost to me. So I have to pass on the 2 cents. So that's just business.
That's how business works. That's how math works. If your costs increase, those get passed on down the chain.
What happened here? There you go. Sorry.
So what is it that has allowed you and these food companies to be so successful? Are you guys investing more in the production technology? Do you just have really great distributor relationships and fantastic salespeople that are, opening up all these doors at the different retailers? What do you attribute this to?
Yeah, I believe it's the quality of the product, the uniqueness of the product, and of course, the fact that we believe highly in the customer service aspect. My sales team is very moderate. We've only got a few in the sales force. We work through a nationwide network of brokers, but my sales team do the headquarter calls, so we keep the relationship with the customers. So if there's a problem, they call us directly, and we deal with it. So, and we don't try to get ahead of our skis and try to oversell and things like that. We know we want to grow every year, but we're not going to grow 30%, 40%. It's just, a lot of our products are man-made, so we we have to understand labor is an issue with everybody, but certainly in our business, where it's an issue, and we continually invest. Every year, we invest a great deal of our revenues in new production equipment, freezing, somewhat transportation, not so much. I just bought a truck yesterday. That's why it comes to mind. But anyway,
You talked about, making the sort of the office environment there fun, and, have some really key folks that have been with you for a long time. In production facilities, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to presume there's a bit more turnover there, is traditional in those kinds of environments. Are there things that you've tried and found success with that helps with sort of recruiting and retaining folks in that type of environment?
again, it is about the management in the production plants, that they have to take the same type management style that they see in the office here and bring it to our production plants. Okay. And they realize that it's not a fun and game thing, but again, get your job done. You're highly appreciated and well rewarded. So we don't try to hire people at minimum wage. We pay quite a bit more than minimum wage because it's just not worth it. At minimum wage, people tend to change jobs quite a bit. So that's the last thing we want, is people that's going to stay for a while. So, and we promote within. So if somebody's been working in a room for a long time, he's got a chance to move up to room supervisor, and then maybe head this part of production plant. Eventually, he may end up running it. I have a guy and runs our plant down, one of our plants down east, that, he started just like that. Came out of college, came to work. He was a QC guy. Now he's director of operations, managing a whole team of people.
So your products, we can find them at most of the major grocery chains out there. Do they have the Big Easy name on them? Are they private labeled? Or are we going to find, these under sort of different brand names?
Several years ago, when the European chains started coming in here, the Lodi, the Trader Joe's, they really focused on private label, and of course the bigger chains started changing over to private label, thinking that was the wave of the future. And for the most part, a lot of the big chains, they take our shrimp, they take catfish, or we take and put their brand on our product. So you'll find it great value in Walmart. You'll find other chains have their own labels. So, but yeah.
Are any of the products available for people to purchase direct online?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We sell online products. It's not a big part of our business. We really got into online when we had the Turduckens years ago and promote them. But, you get a lot of calls from your customer. My customer is one of the major chains, Sam's or Walmart, and they go, "Hey, you're competing. You're cheaper than us," and all that kind of stuff. Which I wasn't, but they, sure we wasn't that. But again, you get a little, you realize where the real bread's buttered from, and it comes from major chains, not individuals. So we backed away. Now, some of our biggest accounts today are home delivery companies. Like I'm not going to mention those. Well, I guess I can mention Butcher Block is one of our great, wonderful accounts. Very high end meat and products, and we're glad to be part of it because they're on cutting edge of quality and things like that, and we're like that too. So we believe in the all natural, chem free products, and we support that. So,
are you handling order fulfillment for them? Are you shipping direct to the client like a drop ship, or they're holding their own inventory and then fulfilling?
They're doing that. we just send truckloads of products to them, and they put
Much
them in.
easier for your model, especially because I would imagine a lot of these foods, if they're being shipped through the mail, maybe not all of them, but most of them, need some kind of refrigeration as they're traveling. Yeah.
All of them that we sell, the shrimp and all that's all frozen.
I didn't know if any of these sausages were maybe cured meats that didn't need to be refrigerated, but it sounds like they need to be as well.
Well, we don't do too much sausage, but yeah, in the sausage and boudin world, that gets frozen too, and then you just thaw it out.
So, what is the future of Big Easy Foods look like? What plans do you guys have for growth?
We've got we're continuing to build on all of the platforms. Entrees are doing very, very well for us as we take on new parts of the country, new chains, grocery outlet on the West Coast. Just picked up all our entrees and shrimp. So all of our platforms are doing well, but we just opened a new platform where we put a Big Easy kiosk in convenience stores. Convenience stores focused on selling gasoline and cigarettes and beer. And as that has all tapered down, they're looking for new ways of making revenue. And they realize quick and easy grab and go food is one way to make that. So we're setting Big Easy kiosks in C-stores, convenience stores, and it's going very well for us. We see a lot of runway in that direction. So
that food is hot and ready to go, or
yeah, it's brought in frozen, and we have a particular oven that we use to. We do a lot of the prep here. We par fry everything. So when it gets there frozen, they take it out, they put it in our oven for 7 minutes, and it's ready for the customer. So it's a big commercial oven, but it's developed for our product line, and it's wonderful. So there's no grease in the stores or anything like that. There's no frying like that. So, but and we have breakfast items, kolaches with our sausage and boudins, and we got the rolls, which has our sausage and egg and things like that, all that. And then all the way up from the entrees for lunch, but you can also get an order of the shrimp, fried shrimp with French fries and a roll and catfish, fries, rolls, and the chicken tenders. It's just great. We worked on the products for about a year now, and it's just started rolling out since the first of the year. So we're excited about it.
So, Larry, when you call it a kiosk, is this like I see a Subway store sometimes attached? Like, is it like an actual food counter where somebody goes up and orders and they wait a couple of minutes and it's prepared hot for them right there?
Yeah, a lot of times they prepare a little of it in advance. Okay, but the neat things about ours, it's frozen to hot in just a few minutes. So, but yes, it's like a Subway. It's behind the glass type thing. But we also have some where you just lift up and grab and go. Mm-hmm. You want a catfish dinner, you just grab it and go. We prepared some of them, and it's just great. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, and we've got the whole marketing scheme. I mean, down here we have the Hunt's Pizza, we have Crispy Crunch. These are some kiosks that they put in the stores, in the convenience stores. So we're alongside of them a lot of times, and sometimes it's just our kiosk. So,
and is it branded Big Easy, or do each of the convenience stores branded there? It is under the Big Easy name.
It's all Big Easy branded, and there's over 100,000 convenience stores in this country, so there's a lot of runway for you. So we're excited.
So this is still
about it.
pretty new. I'm up in, you guys are in Louisiana, I'm up in Columbus, Ohio. I'm probably not seeing any of the Big Easy kiosks up here
Oh,
quite yet.
oh no, no. You're only going to see it in Louisiana. Remember, we just started this the last couple of weeks in the
Oh, this
store,
is brand new.
brand new.
Okay.
But we believe it's, it's going to be a big part of our business in the days and months and years to come. So,
Any other exciting growth opportunities there at Big Easy that you want to give voice to?
well, we do believe that this country is focusing more and more on their health, and we believe to be, we've got some great products that fall in there, like our all natural shrimp, great protein and totally chemical free, no preservatives and things like that. So we're excited to be into that, and then we've got some other things that are out there in that level, but it's just great flavors. People love, a lot of people love Louisiana cuisine, and we just like bringing Louisiana flavors to, all over the country.
So tell me about the work that you and your son Eric are doing with Crying Eagle Brewing Company.
Well, it's, we started that about 8 years ago, bringing craft beer. And there was only a few craft breweries in the state of Louisiana. They were lagging way behind, so we decided to do this. And Eric, who he's got a master's from LSU and things, and he knows these ideas we come up with. Like when I said I want to bring a craft brewery to Lake Charles area, and he goes, "Wow, okay. Well, how much is that going to cost?" I said, "Well, it's going to cost millions." He goes, "Okay. Well, let me go check it out." So he goes with his buddies, and they go check out craft brewery and talk to him. He comes back about 3 weeks later and said, "Okay, I'm all in. Let's do it." And and pretty much he knows that he's going to have to run it and do everything, because he does that. We haven't. Well, we had an archiving company which file storage, like destruction, all that. Okay, he ran that. He ran the self storage. We just sold the self storage company in December after 29 years, and then he runs the Crying Eagle. But and we're building a new one, Lake Charles. Like it says, we have a lake here, and it's right on I-10. I-10, the one that goes from Los Angeles to Florida, goes right through Lake Charles, and we have we're building one of our Crying Eagle Brewing over there. But it's more of a sit-down food, but it's all on the lake. It's beautiful. It's like I said, and we're gonna bring all that to Lake Charles. So that'll be our second one. And then
And so both locations are a combination, like a restaurant, a bar, and a brewing facility?
Well, we don't like the term bar because we close at 10 o'clock at night. We're more about a tap room and entertainment venues at one of them. That's the existing one. We have outdoor stages and beer gardens and all that, okay? And live entertainment 3 or 4 days a week. We have a nice bistro there. It's got upscale pub food, we call it. And a lot of it's Big Easy, believe it or not. But and then the next one, it's going to be a more sit-down venue and table service. So, and we're in the process of hiring the general manager now, or interviewing general managers and things like that. So it's much bigger investment, much bigger place, 16,000 square foot. So it's big.
That's a large facility.
Yeah.
So are the craft beers, are they just available on premise? Are they being sold to other bars or grocery stores, convenience stores? Where people find the product?
Okay, so in Louisiana, we have, every state has its own craft beer laws, but in Louisiana, we sell just on premise, but you can take our canned beer. We can beer, and you can take it and we go, but most of the things was consumed. But we sell everything. We spell wine and spirits and all that. So cocktails and things like that. So
Is the plan to kind of leverage some of the relationships you have with the big retailers around the country to get some distribution for Crying Eagle?
well, we did that. We started as a production brewery. Okay, we had a big tap room, big production, and we went in the grocery stores all over. Okay, that model is an expensive way. I mean, you have to buy salespeople. You have to sell wholesale. You do all that kind of thing. So when COVID hit, and we knew we were going to build the one on the lake, and we knew we needed to have more than just beer, because if you're a production brewery and you're selling to stores, you can only sell your beer in your tap room. Okay, and that's what we did. We sold food, we sold our beer, and so as we stand there in a empty tap room during COVID, we know we need to change our model. So we converted in June of 20, at the beginning of that, to what they call a microbrewery, where you can offer everything, but you couldn't sell in the stores anymore. But our biggest market at that time in distribution was New Orleans, and we did very well in there, but we realized, or we believed, okay, that it would take years for New Orleans to come back from a complete shutdown. And it really did. It took years before and they still probably aren't as busy as they were with conventions and stuff. So anyway, it's been a good thing, because, our sales in our tap room, went up 5 times, because now you'd be able to bring your wife if she likes wine or all the cocktails or anything like that. So
you like the distribution model that you guys have now, where you're not in the grocery stores, but you're able to have more of a full service, several options there available to you.
Yeah, all the full service. And the model is to bring them provide really fantastic. We have a 6-month summer concert series that goes for 6 months now, that we bring in some nice bands and things like that. And I mean, we'll have sometimes 1,000 people or more at our brewery over there, but we've got 6.5 acres, so we got a lot of room.
That's a good plot of land, a lot of outdoor space. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the beers. Like, what do we find there? The stuff that you guys are making.
Well, we have, it's all kind of Louisiana theme stuff. Now we have a award-winning brewmaster, so this guy's won national honors and things like that. So he does a great product, but we sell everything from lagers to sours to IPAs and all the things. It's a good product. It's a great product.
Let's shift gears for a moment, Larry, and would like to hear about a serious challenge that you've overcome in your life, either something personal or professional. Maybe it's a combination of the two. What was it like going through that, and what have you learned coming out the other side?
Twice in my 43 years of running my own business that we've had major layoffs, okay, because of big downturn industry is usually. And, it's very, very difficult to go in and lay off a lot of people. You've had their families, they've been working for you a long time. And it's very hard to do. We try to take care of them, but that's happened. The last time we idled a plant on the end of 23, shifted that production 200 miles north, because we were on the coast in Louisiana, and we just kept getting hit by hurricanes, and insurance became almost impossible to get. And so, as hard as it was to walk away from a plant we've owned for almost 20 years, it was the best business decision, because, it is about continuing growing and making money and getting out of harm's way, I guess. So
And did many folks make that move with you up north?
we at that point, that plant had around 60 something employees, and probably 20 of them relocated. The rest of them took a severance and went and found other things to do.
Larry, you strike me as the kind of guy with the track record and the success that you've had that probably have a lot of people coming to you for advice, valuing your opinion, that wealth of experience that you've put together. Who in your career have you been able to go to and say, man, I'm in a bad place. I'm dealing with something tough. Like, I need to talk this through. I need some advice.
Well, for one, my wife has been by my side the whole time, and she's a very smart lady. And I love being able to discuss business with her. Now, she don't make it all about business, but our afternoon discussions is one. Again, a great banker, a great attorney, and a great CPA. These are the people that are just imperative. When I had the environmental company, my CPA, I knew very little about business at that. I went to school and studied biology. Thought I wanted to be a doctor, but that wasn't near the thing I wanted to do. So I had to learn all that stuff, the business stuff, and so you just get really good people around you, and bankers. They see really good bankers, that manage decent sized portfolios. They see all kind of business. They see mistakes people make more than they see, all the successes. So they'll kind of guide you in some of those ways. But my dad was an entrepreneur. He started several companies. None of them got very big, but he was all about customer service and things like that, quality products. So
That's kind of where you learned some of your foundational things. I've heard you repeat over and over again: customer service, quality product. Sounds like a lot of those lessons came from your father.
Yeah. And he was a hard worker. He traveled and things like that. Traveled for business.
Has your wife been actively involved in the business ventures that you've been involved with?
My wife, we all started the first company going back to the environmental company. I'll tell you the genesis of that. She was going to school to be a nurse, okay, which costs money. I was a maintenance supervisor at one of the local oil refineries in this area. So I was, to make extra money, I would install in home water softeners. Okay. You familiar with water softeners? Yeah. Okay. So it's down here, before they put in a lot of the municipal water, everybody had water wells. So they put water softeners on there because we have a lot of iron and things like that. So, and then she graduated, and it switched rather rapidly from costing money to making money. And I said, I want to start my own water softening company. And that's where we brought in, and she goes, yeah, let's do it. And we brought in water softeners, bought them and put them together, and I installed them. And 6 months after I got started, I realized scale was important in anything you do. And so I called the guy that I worked for, who was the biggest water softener guy in this area, and said, I'd like to buy you out. And he goes, but I have no money, so I need you to finance it for me. So he goes, okay. He was an old man. And so I went from being a very small potato to a decent sized guy in the water softening business. And then one day I got a call from one of the chemical plants, and I said, you put in water softeners, right? I said, oh, yeah. And he said, come take a look at this project. And it was a water softener, which is flow-through filtration for one of his boilers. So it's like 150 gallon a minute. Now I'm used to dealing with 8 gallon a minute home units. So
It's a different scale. Yeah.
and he said, can you make a water softener for me? And of course, young and dumb Larry said, oh, yeah. Knowing my older brother was a genius engineer, and he was laid off. That was tough times for the oil industry back in those days when interest rates were extremely high and very difficult time. And so he had moved back from Houston, was working out of my little tiny office, sending out his resumes. And I went back to the office and said, Billy, can you come up with a control package for water softener for 150? He goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's no problem. Oh, called my friend who had a welding shop. Hey, can we build these vessels that are now 8 foot in diameter instead of, the small? And oh, yeah, we can do that. And then so we built it, installed it, put it in, and then the next one come along and the next one. And pretty soon you're doing work for other flow, like again, it's flow through filtration. And that includes air. So we got calls by a landfill that would take wastewater from different places, store it, and inject it down to injection wells. So that was a way back in the 80s. So, but when they took it in their tank, the exhaust out of the top of that tank had a lot of VOCs, volatile. So they filtered to activated carbon. So they called us and said, can you all do that? And we said, yeah. So we started building those. And then one day got a call from Exxon and said, hey, can you do some remediation work for us? So we did. Then 6 months later, they called in and said, hey, we'd like you to do a nationwide program for us. There we are, a little company here in the Lake Charles area. And Exxon wants us to do stuff for them all over the country. And I said, yeah, why not? So we put in a bid. We were competing against 2 big public companies. Well, we won the bid. So I went in one Saturday, called my managers around, and I said, okay, we got to open an office in Philadelphia. I want you to go take care of this. I want you to go down to Florida. I want you to go over to LA. I want you to go up to Seattle. So we opened 4 offices in 2 or 3 months, got them up and running, rented space, rented forklifts, rented trucks, hired people, shipped the stuff up there. And
that's a lot of cash outlay for a small company to be, expanding into so many locations all at once. Yeah. Was the customer fronting you any of this money? Were you just...
No. In fact, when I asked the head of the environmental with Exxon, I said, how much business you talking about? And he goes, well, it's a lot, but we don't know. I said, so you can't explain what a lot is, huh? He goes, no, I can't. It's just so scattered out. Well, I calculated if we could do $250,000 with them first year, I could support those 4 offices. And the first year we did way over $1 million with just Exxon. And as soon as Exxon comes on, BP and the rest of them, they start just calling you, and pretty soon you're the biggest guy in the business doing it all over. And so
there's a couple of things that I hear you saying over and over again. One is, you're asked, hey, can you do this? Sure. And then you go and you figure out how to do it, which I love, sort of that gumption. And the other thing you keep saying is, and then we got a call from this person, and then we got a call from that person, and then we got a call from this person. And are you getting these calls without sort of that outgoing, like, marketing and sales? This is just somebody heard through the grapevine, like, you're doing this thing and you did good work?
Well, yeah, I mean, you focus on a couple of industries. One was, of course, the oil industry, and gasoline service station companies. Small, and of course, their engineers talk. And all of them want to solve the problem that Exxon wanted, which means somebody to manage the whole program for them. And that's what we did. So I had an engineering department that designed the vessels and things. And then we had our own manufacturing facility. And when we put it in, we did all the right stuff. We built robotic welding machines and all the latest CAD for engineering. And then I traveled and met with a lot of people. And then what really was that those two companies that were bidding against us at the first business, I called them up and said, "Hey, I have this service center up there. Do you guys need some service on your equipment?" So our competitors became some of our biggest customers. And to this day, we do business with other shrimp processors and other catfish people because we find that because they're a competitor doesn't mean you can't do business with them. It just dictates the way you do business with them. So
you may be able to provide some part of the finished product that maybe they're not equipped to do very well.
Yeah. Other shrimp companies, they want to offer some of the other products we had, we'll do it with them. And if we outsell our shrimp capacity, we'll buy from other quality manufacturers. So same with the catfish.
So something else I want to go back to is you're starting out in the water softener business. You go out on your own for a few months. You're doing all right, but hey, I recognize now that scale is really important. So after being on your own for, I think it was just 6 months, you took the really bold move of calling up your employer and saying, "Hey, I'd like to buy you," which I think is just like great gumption. But then the response back was, "Sure, and I'll finance it." Like, what was sort of the dynamic there to where that happened so easily?
Well, his service guy left. The guy that his head service guy, me, left. Okay, that left a pretty big hole that I knew, and he was struggling. Two, he was probably my age now. Okay, so he had been in.
He was looking for exit.
Yeah, and he was ready to go. And sometimes it's very difficult to monetize something as service oriented as water softening. So, but
that makes a lot of sense.
It's good. For almost 10 years that we started that company, my wife was a nurse. I continued to work at the oil refinery. But my job at the oil refineries was oversee maintenance when all the big dogs were home. So nights and so the evening shift and the midnight to 7 shift. That's where there was 4 of us that did that job. We rotated through it. So it left me a lot of time during the day. So for about 10 years, I was able to, your body doesn't necessarily need 8 hours sleep, when you're younger. Now I need 8 to 9, but back then I did 4 hours and I was good. It's good quality, hard sleep, and just get up and keep going. But so you do that for a while, but I don't want to go back to that, but you do what you do. I mean, you had to keep your credit good. You couldn't let the business get ahead of the money. I mean, you just can't. So him finance it. The business was an easy out for me. I could have never at that point gone to a bank and get them to finance that deal. So I learned to read balance sheets and operating and inventories very early on, and so as we were growing the environmental business and things like that, we bought 8 to 10 companies during that time, anywhere from $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in revenue to a few $1 million in revenue, and we would just kind of roll and tuck them into what we did.
And mostly what you were requiring are their customers as well as their service pros, right? Or were you getting like additional skill sets that you didn't have before?
Always, we had a particular way of what we believed how to buy. Okay, so right here is what I do. This is what we did. My circle was this big, and that's what we did. So I looked for somebody right outside of my circle, okay? But some of what he did is what I do. Okay, so I knew their business well enough because the business they hit. But when I bought him, my circle became bigger because I got to pick up some of this other stuff. And that's how we got into doing business with Coors and Coke and Pepsi and even the pharmaceutical companies. We did a lot of work in Puerto Rico back then.
And now you can take that core service and offer it to more clients, and you get more clients that, you know.
You find your existing clients need those services too. Now you can bring two. So, one call does it all.
Larry, sometimes what appears to be a giant mistake in the moment, later on in life, we look back on and you're like, wow, that's the best thing that happened because it taught me this or it steered me in a different direction. Can you think of a moment like that for yourself?
Well, I think when things don't go bad, it's not a failure. It's just a lesson. To me, I just learned a lesson. Okay, it cost me a lot, maybe, but hey, it cost me a lot to send my son to LSU. But hey, it's a lesson. But I'll tell you, let's dial the clock back 20 some years ago when my son was young, out of school. He's running self-storage, but he had friends get into rental properties, and they were buying these trailers and fixing them up and renting them out. Comes Dad, I want to get into rental properties. I said, really? Okay. So what are you talking about? And he told me what he's doing, what he's thinking about doing. I said, son, that doesn't sound like something that's, well, I don't think that's a great idea. Let those guys do that. Why don't we go get in a resort property? So Destin, familiar with Destin, Florida, it's on the Panhandle, beautiful white beaches, place. Blue water, all the things. Let's go and buy a condo in Destin. We'll be in the rental property. We'll get somebody to manage it. But when it's when it's empty, we can go down there and try it. Oh, he said, let's do it. And then my wife has this very artistic design quality about her too. So we bought our first property in Destin, early 2000. We put 10% down. It's $380,000 property. Put $38,000. We went in there, took a condo right on the beach, and it was all white and all this cheap furniture. Well, we go and paint it and put mirrors and all the things that make it look pretty. And we rented it out. We never had to put any more money in. Cash flow positive. 13 months later, we sold it for $589,000. So our $38,000 invested turned into $200,000. So we took the $200,000, rolled it into three more. Okay. And did the same thing over again. So that went on for a good while. We made some good money, kept rolling it into other properties and bigger properties, nicer and things like that. And then let's say 2006, 7, whatever, it stopped. And
because of the economic downturn?
Oh, yeah.
What triggered it?
Housing. Yeah. It was just it went from, let's say, really nice properties were selling for around 800 square foot. This is a long time ago. They went all the way down to like $400 a square foot, things like that. So we had 5 properties, high-end properties, and so we held on to them for a while, thinking we were going to see a recovery, and of course, it didn't happen right away. It's back now, but it's been many, many years. And then I had to teach my son a little bit about learning how to use the write-offs and things that go on with stuff. He goes, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to sell them. He sell them. We can't lose all this money. I said, you don't understand. We rolled all this stuff in there, but we captured all these losses, loss carry forwards, because these were passive income. If you don't, you have to have passive losses. So the only way we could recover these losses is actually sell them. So I called my really good CPA and asked him what the losses carried forward, and it was a lot. So we began selling our condos for a loss and took the write-off, and it became turn those losses into cash. So he used the money you had tucked away in tax losses to recapture, and we were able to get out of condos. But it taught me to not to get ahead of your skis on some of these opportunities. And so anyway, that wasn't too much fun.
Larry,
Lesson learned.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just a lesson learned.
Yeah, powerful one. The best lessons are ones learned, as I like to put it, on the job. It's one thing to learn about it in a textbook, but when you learn it with your own money in real life, those lessons, you don't have to try to recall. They're just sort of baked into you at a cellular level.
Do you know what? I'll tell you, the thing is, we are very blessed. We're a Christian company. I keep it very Christian company, and we believe that God has guided our steps all along the way. And when you bring a problem to Him and say, God, can you help me with this? Because this is bigger than me. And it just comes to you how to solve a problem. But you got to realize that it wasn't anything I thought of. He just put it in there. So
say more about that, what it means to be a Christian company, and I'm particularly intrigued by, when you've got this big problem, you go to prayer, you have a conversation with God, you ask for help, and how's that work?
I'm going to give you another example. Early on in the shrimp business, we were scaling up, but the shrimp business is one of the worst cash flow business there is. Okay. Picture this. The boats come in, you unload your shrimp, you pay them. The float on that check is 20 minutes until they can get to the bank and cash it. That's how much float. So and then I have to take that shrimp, process it, freeze it, sell it, wait 7 to 30 days on my money. So I'm out about 45 days on cash. Well, there's a really, and look, early on I had a relatively small line of credit, and it was just, and the shrimp was coming in, and we were buying everything we could get and selling it, and the float, and first thing you know, you go into this is not allowed today, but it was allowed 20 years ago. Was you go into overdraft, the bank, and you just paid an overdraft fee. I'll get $30 or whatever. Probably still the case. We just don't have to. I don't participate in overdrafts anymore. But it became such a big thing for our company that it became a line item on my P&L statement was overdraft fees. And $65,000. I remember my last line item over. So my banker calls me. He goes, Larry, and it was huge. I mean, shrimp was huge. And he goes, Larry, you're in overdraft almost $750,000. He said, it can't go to $1 million. You've got to stop it. I said, all right, Jim, we can do it. And this was like on a Tuesday. And so I said, God, you're going to have to help me with this. I've got to raise $1 million here in the next couple of days. And so I went and told our sales guys, I said, you call all these customers and tell them we will sell them the shrimp they're looking for at 25 cents a pound, but they need to wire the money in. That didn't come from me. Okay. All of them, They started calling their customers, and Friday comes along. My banker calls me, Larry, what are you doing about the overdraft? I said, Jim, have you pulled up our account? He goes, no. I said, pull it up. He goes, Larry, you got $250,000 in it. How did that happen? I said, wasn't me. I said, well, I did tell you, you can always sell shrimp. Everybody will buy shrimp at the right price. I said, so that's what we did. But it was a good thing. Learned a good lesson. Never got that deep in debt, deep overdraft again. But
And that idea came to you through prayer.
yeah, it was just God help me out of this thing. And he did, believe me.
You asked, and at some point, the idea just appeared in your head.
Yeah.
It felt right, and this is what we're going to do. And it worked.
And it worked. But see, what God did was put it on our customer's heart to take the deal. Okay.
So you said 25 cents a pound. How much of a reduction was that?
Well, at that point, you made $1 a pound. Okay. So you're giving up 25% of your profit.
Okay.
So, which is, hey, shrimp commodity products are nickels and dimes and quarters and things like that. So that guy knew he was going to sell it, and he's going to pick up another quarter. So if he buys 4 truckloads of shrimp, and that's $100 and something thousand, he's going to pick up $25,000. So he just pulls on his line of credit and pays me in
Helps
8
you in your
hours.
cash flow situation there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Larry, I've just got one more question for you, but before I ask it, I want to do 2 things. Everyone listening today, I know that you love this show. Larry's been a great guest. Go ahead and hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you continue to get great content like this. Larry, I also want to let people know the best way either to get in touch with you directly or to continue to follow your story or that of the companies that you're involved with. What would that be?
Well, we have Big Easy Foods.
BigEasyFoods.com.
.com, yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to call us, give us a call. We'll get some great people that'll answer your calls and talk to you about what we do. I'm here almost all the time. I've got very few hobbies other than work. So, I like to play a little golf, do a little fishing, snow skiing, some stuff like that. But I also like to come to the office and talk to these great people that work here. So.
There we go. So BigEasyFoods.com, folks. And last question for you, Larry. As you look to the future, what exciting changes do you see coming to your industry?
I think people are really starting to look at the foods they eat, okay? And they're looking for where they come from, okay? So they're looking for more Buy American. And I couldn't be more excited about that because that's what we sell. So, and I think the government that we're operating on today believes the same thing. So we're excited about it.
All right. Well, Larry, I want to be the first one to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. All right. It went quicker than I thought. So
that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.